I want to introduce our guest speaker for today. I came across this young man in my Toastmasters club, and I thought he would be a very good speaker to have along today. Stafford Swainston is a champion MMA fighter. He has fought in America, Thailand, Australia and the United Kingdom, and has been a British title holder twice and a European title holder. And today he's going to be talking about various aspects of his life. He said in his particular introduction that he wanted me to tell you that everyone faces challenges, but few truly learn how to rise through them. And he has lived through this process both in and out of the cage. With over a decade in professional fighting, mentoring and coaching, he's here to share his system, and you can copy it to build resilience, find fulfillment and perform when the pressure's on. So I give you Stafford Swainston. Martial arts.
I will get on to that in 2 minutes. 2 minutes I'll explain.
Oh, shut up.
Do you want the mic? Do you want the mic or without the mic? Mic with the mic. There is a definite process of facing challenges that arise in your life. Most people think it's complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. And if you can follow this process, not only will you be able to handle any challenges that life throws your way, but also live a life with more fulfillment. Not happiness, but fulfillment. Can anyone tell me the difference? Shout them out.
We would rather hear from you.
These are very good answers, very good answers. But happiness is short term. It spurs in the moment. But fulfillment is that flame that carries on burning. And when you implement the 4 R's to building resilience, you will live a life with more fulfillment. Now, my name is Stafford Swainston. You're probably thinking, why did my mum name me after a dog? I still don't know. But people will either call me Staff or Swaino. They are my 2 nicknames. And you're probably also thinking, why am I wearing these? Well, this is what I need for my sport. My sport being MMA. Now on the left is what I fight in. That is a cage. And if you can see, that is me getting one of my British titles. And on the right is one of my professional fights. And what MMA is a mixture of everything. You can punch, you can kick, you can knee, you can elbow, you can also wrestle, and you can get submissions. Now, submissions can either be by chokes or joint locks. And the name of the game is to either knock them out, like I have in the photo on the right, or tap them out with a submission. But sometimes it will go to the judges. And 10 years ago, I walked into my first MMA gym, which marks 10 years experience in the game. And alongside that, I've been helping numerous individuals get a mindset just like a fighter, so they can tackle their problems head on. And now, I'm going to go through the same system that I taught my clients. What do you think is the number one thing that separates those who quit from those who push through?
Motivation. Yeah.
Very good, very good. Pain, very good answers. Very wrong, but very good. You see, in 2017, I was a full-time student, but I wanted to be a full-time MMA fighter. That was my dream. That's all I wanted to be a UFC world champion. And to hear them on the mic shout, and the 145-pound champion of the world, Steph Sueno. Raise your hand if you've ever had a dream. Well, you should understand this. Every dream requires a choice. I was driving back from training in my tin can of a car and had a very tough decision to make. Do I go to school and carry on with the 11 months of education I had left? Or should I go home, leave school for good, and pursue fighting full time? To me, it was a no-brainer. But all that kept playing in my head was, my dad will kill me. He won't allow it. He's got old values, traditional values. George Swinston will not allow it. But then another voice played in my head saying, Sueno, don't be a chicken. I pull my car up, I get my books out, and I walk inside. My stomach's twisting, my heart's racing, and that's when my dad walked into the kitchen. He said, Steph, what are you doing? You're meant to be at school. And I looked at the floor and said, well, I'm going to leave school, Dad. Yeah, I'm going to become a professional fighter. He then said, are you stupid? It was only yesterday that your brother was beating you up. You couldn't even fight yourself out a wet paper bag if you tried. Wait until I tell your mother about this. And let me tell you about my mum, Kate Swinston. Honestly, she's the best. She would always take my side. She would never shout at me. So I had no doubt in my mind that she'd support me in being a professional fighter. So I thought, yeah, you go tell Mum, George. Later that night, I have a knock on my bedroom door. Steph, it's your mum. Can me and your dad come in, please? They walk in. They stand at the end of my mattress. And in the calmest voice possible, my mum said, Dad told me that you're going to leave school, Steph, to become a professional fighter. I said, yeah, Mum, yeah, I'm going to be a pro fighter. And she said, are you stupid? It was only yesterday that your brother was beating you up. But if you were sat beside me, a few moments later, on my beat-up mattress, with my bacon sandwich steaming in the background, you'd have heard my mum say something that hit me very hard. She said, Steph, I had a dream once. It was to be a cruise line singer. But it didn't work out. But because I got the grades, I was able to get this great job at the bank instead. I said, is this your way of trying to talk me out of it, Mum, and go back to school? Because it's not happening, Mum. This is my dream. And if I've got to leave this house today and live life on my own terms, then so be it. I actually believe in myself. You don't believe. And it was in this very moment, you would have seen my mum's face drop. She said, no, Steph. What I'm trying to say is, it didn't work out for me because I didn't even try. I said, what do you mean, Mum? She said, well, it was my dream to be a cruise line singer, to go across the world singing to thousands and thousands of people. But it was my dad's dream for me to get educated, go to school, and get a good job. And I was too scared of what your grandpa would have said, so I never even tried. I said, but why, Mum? That was your dream. And she said, I chose comfort over courage. Now, what do you think is the number one thing that separates those who quit from those who push through?
Determination.
Those who quit choose comfort, and those who push through choose courage. Now, comfort, it may seem like your short-term friends, but really, it's your long-term enemy. And you resist the urge for comfort by choosing courage instead. Because courage, that is where the growth happens. So let me ask you this. What is the one thing you're avoiding for the wrong reasons?
Conflict.
It could be going to the gym and doing that health kick that you've been saying you're going to start for weeks. It could be reaching out to an old friend. It could be taking the supplements that your wife or your husband is trying to get you to take. But that one thing you're avoiding for the wrong reasons. The one thing you're choosing comfort instead of courage. And I looked at my mum with a smirk on my face and said, "Is this you telling me to go for it, Mum?" And she went, "Yes, Stafford. Don't make the same mistakes I did. Go for it, my baby one." All I can say is, I'm glad she didn't call me baby one in public. Because I might be a fighter, but I'm not fighting my way out of that one. Then off I went. That was it. I went on a journey to become a professional MMA fighter. But I soon realized this was going to be a lot harder than I thought. You need money. And unfortunately, when my dad used to say, "Money doesn't grow on trees, Staff," he was actually right. And because of this, I had to pick up many part-time jobs along the way to supplement my dream. One of them being an at-home support carer. You heard that right. I was knocking people out in the week, but I was caring for the elderly on the weekend. Talk about a work-life balance. Now, one day, I was helping this woman. I can't give you her name for legal reasons, but today, we're going to call her Jo. So I was helping Jo, and my job was to get her out of bed, onto a commode, where I'd wash her and clean her. She'd get up onto the Zimmer frame, she'd walk herself into the lounge, I would support her onto the sofa, and I'd get her 2 slices of toast and a hot chocolate at the ready. And I couldn't forget her hot chocolate. And as usual, I've come in, I've got her out, I've washed her, I've dressed her, I've cleaned her. All I had to do is give her a little clean down below and get her on a Zimmer frame. So I go to Jo and I go, "All right, Jo, we're going to stand up now. Are you ready?" And she looks at me and goes, "I'm always ready." I said, "That's the spirit, Jo. All right, we're going to stand up on 1. 3, 2, 1. And I stand her up. She gets her balance. She's on a Zimmer frame. She's absolutely fine. So I then say, "All right, I need to give you a little clean now. Are you ready?" Because even though it's my job, I still have to ask permission to clean down there. She looks at me and goes, "I'm ready." So I get the wipe, I get the spray, I give her a good clean. I then go down to grab her trousers, only to feel something drop down my arm. And I thought, that's strange. I looked down and said, Jo, stop it. And just so we're clear, it wasn't a small amount. And it was in this very moment she looked at me with the biggest smirk on her face I've ever seen and said, "I said I was ready to go to the loo." And at the time I thought, when did that mean ready? But a few weeks later I was reading her file and realized she had dementia. Now, it made complete sense of why she got mixed up with the word ready. But when I wasn't having accidents just like this, I became quite aware that my cheeky approach made me a hit with all 12 of my clients. Now, instead of treating them like a baby, I would banter them from the moment I walked in until the moment I walked out. And if I was to tell you some of the things they said back to me in return, you wouldn't believe me. But in the midst of all that, I became very curious of the wisdom they gained over their years. So I asked each and every one of them, if you could give your younger self some advice, what would it be? Now, the answer shocked me. Not because it was anything I hadn't heard before, but because they all said the same things. Not one of them, not two of them, but all 12 of them. None of them talked about what they did, but all of them talked about what they didn't do. The places they never traveled to, the hobbies they never pursued, the skills they never attained. You see, after working as a carer, I realized it wasn't just my mum that chose comfort over courage. Many others do exactly the same. So I'll ask you again, what is the one thing you're avoiding for the wrong reasons? The one thing you've been putting on the back burner for weeks. The one thing you're choosing comfort over courage. But sooner or later, you're bound to hit a bump in the road, no matter what journey that you go on. And with fighting, there's a lot of bumps. But none of them stung more than this one. I opened my eyes to see orange. Just orange. My whole eyesight was orange, and I thought, where the hell am I? I then went from seeing orange to seeing a fence with flashing lights. And I thought, have I been knocked out? No, I can't have been knocked out. But as my senses came back around, I realized I was in the middle of a cage. And I also realized I'd been choked unconscious, not only in front of my family, but also in front of thousands of people. Now, this was the first time I'd ever been stopped in a fight. But to make matters worse, it was only a few weeks after leaving school. I bet my parents did think, he is stupid. And after the fight, I'd be walking down the street thinking, I bet he saw me get choked out. I bet she did. No, he looked at me. He definitely saw me get choked out. In fact, I'd walk through my hometown and I'd get embarrassed. That was until my weekly sauna session. Now, I'd been in the sauna for about 10 minutes. Not a soul had come in. But then out of nowhere, this 75-year-old man in his little Speedos and goggles plodded in. And you know when you meet those people, they just have that energy, that aura. They have something about them that's different. Well, this gentleman, he was one of them. We got talking and he goes, "What do you do for work, son?" And as he asked me that question, I looked to the floor and said, "Well, I'm trying to be a fighter." I don't know if he could tell something was up, but he said something that lit a fire in my belly. He said, "I respect that, mate. I really do. You just got to find that one thing that lights your soul up inside and carry on going until those wheels fall off." And as he said that, I lifted my head back up and smiled from the corner of the rooms. He then went, "But don't get it twisted, kid. There'll come a time and a place where you will hit some big bumps in the road. But when you hit those bumps, just be sure you don't stay down. Because an L is not a loss. It's a lesson in disguise." Now raise your hand if you've ever faced any sort of loss in your life. Now you see those losses, those challenges, those setbacks, all they need is one thing. A different lens to look through. Because you could look through one lens and say it's a loss, but you could look through a different lens and ask yourself, what is this situation teaching me? After that fight, I then spent the next month working on my choke defense in training. I got choked, and I got choked, and I got choked. But to this day, which is 7 years later, I've still never been choked unconscious with my leg twitching on the floor for all my family to see. All because I used that lesson, or used that incident as a lesson and not a loss. Now think about a setback or challenge that you've faced in your life. It could be new, or it could be old. But what did that situation teach you? What could you learn from that situation? And how could you use that lesson to your benefit? Because that is how you will recover from a setback. So when life throws a choice at you, you have to decide. Do you go with comfort, or do you go with courage? But the way you resist in that moment will shape your path. But sooner or later, you will hit a bump in the road. The question is, do you see it as a loss, or do you see it as a lesson? A loss will keep you stuck, but a lesson will open more doors than you didn't even know existed. But knowing it's a lesson is not enough. The real power comes in what you do next, the actions you take to rise above. And sometimes they come in unexpected ways. They definitely did for me. As I roll over, half asleep, to put my head on the other side of the pillow, only to look down and realize I've wet the bed. I immediately thought, not this again. Bear in mind I was 18 years of age, just moved out of my parents' house. You'd expect me to be nappy trained by now. I did what any teenager would do. I tried to hide the mess. I got the sheet, I screwed it in a ball, and I threw it straight onto the floor. The next day, the owner of the house, Noah, goes, "Staff, why are your sheets wet through?" I obviously did the mature thing as a young 18-year-old masculine man. And I looked him dead in the eye without a glimpse of hesitation and said, "It was the dog." Which was very confusing for Noah because I didn't own a dog. Raise your hand if you've ever told a white lie. Well, in Thailand, it seems like I was telling them most days. But the whole reason that I moved to Thailand for the next year was to focus on my training, and definitely not the culture. But apparently, culture has a way of finding you. And it comes with heels and a smile. And if you're not careful, even an Adam's apple. Every night, I would have a strict routine. I'd go into my room at 9:30 p.m. I'd get one fan out. I'd put it on the right side. I'd get another fan out. I'd put it on the left side. I'd then go into my suitcase, I'd get my clothes out, and I'd dive straight into bed. And if you're wondering, why fans and not aircon in Thailand in 40-degree heat? Well, I came out with a set amount of money, and I was willing to do whatever it took to stretch out my stay. So if that meant using fans to save money on rent and bills, then so be it. As 3 a.m. strikes, I roll over to put my head on the other side of the pillow, only to look down and realize I wet the bed. I sit up, my sheets are drenched, my boxers are drenched. I look at the alarm clock, only to realize that the red time is not there. I thought, that's strange. I get out of bed, I run to the window to look outside, only to see nothing. And that was the problem. I could see nothing. Normally I'd see houses, I'd see flats, I'd see street lights, but nothing. And as I slowly emerged from my half-asleep zombie mode, it hit me like a ton of bricks. This fan over here, on the right side, it wasn't turning. And the fan over here on the left side wasn't turning either. And I thought, I'm not dreaming, it's the power. The power's gone out. We've had a power cut again. And no, I've not wet myself like a baby. I've wet myself with my own sweat. Because that's the thing about Thailand. When the power goes out and those fans stop spinning, you'll wake up thinking you've wet the bed, even if you haven't. Now, I bet you're thinking, how the hell does this story link into this keynote? Well, picture my room. No bed frame, no hangers, no drawers, no paintings, no lamps. Just a mattress and a sheet. A suitcase with all my clothes in. An alarm clock in the colour red. And a fan on my right. And a fan on my left. See these fans right here? They cost me $10 each. Took 2 seconds to turn on. But somehow had a massive impact on my sleep. Something so small, so tiny, so minute, if I did not buy them, would have ruined my whole 1 year experience of living like a fighter in Thailand. You see, the small things made a very, very big difference. And the small things that you do will make all the difference in rising above. When you hit snooze, when you break your word, when you don't try, when you don't chase it, when you stay quiet, when you skip the small things, you might not realize it now, but will have a huge impact on your entire life. Small things, big difference. So I want you to reflect on the 2 topics I talked about before this. We had resisting the urge for comfort, and we had recovering from a setback. So number 1 was the one thing you're avoiding for the wrong reasons. And number 2 was a lesson that you've learned from a setback. Now, what is a small action? It does not have to be big. A small action that you can do within the next 3 days to address either one of these. Not 7 days, not 30 days, but 3 days. Because if you don't do it within 3 days, you will never do it. So when life throws a choice at you, you get to decide. Do you go with comfort or do you go with courage? But the way you resist in that moment will shape your path. But sooner or later, you will hit a bump in the road. The problem isn't the bump itself, it's how you recover. Do you see it as a loss? Or do you see it as a lesson? A loss will keep you stuck, but a lesson will open more doors than you didn't even know was possible. But knowing it's a lesson is not enough. The real action comes in what you do next. The actions you take to rise above. Do you go big? Or do you go small? Or can you do both? And after all of this, it's very simple. You've just got to be consistent. And with fighting, that is a non-negotiable. I had to train 2 or 3 times a day. I slept on the gym floor for months on end. I would move across the globe with no more than a suitcase and a duffel bag to chase my dream. I would not see my friends or family for months or even years at a time. I would have to outwork anyone that stepped foot on the same mat as me. And I would do whatever it took by any means necessary. And this is what led to my success. And here is just a few highlights of my career. We have this one here. I took a fight on 2 days' notice on the plane to Thailand, and it was an all-out war. Technically, he was a lot better, but mentally, I was a lot stronger. Yep. Me with a cut right there, that was me in 2019. Or February 2019 in Rawai, Phuket, Thailand. And the only thing that got me through that fight was my resilience. Unfortunately, he won on the judges' scorecards, but I won in the crowd's hearts. Next one, getting flown out to Perth in 2019, all expenses paid to take out the homeboy as a massive underdog in spectacular fashion. Moving to San Diego, USA for 6 months to train with the best in the world. Winning my first title on 9 days' notice to get the European title against a massive favourite. Dominating a fight for 5 rounds to get the British title. Taking a fight on 8 days' notice at a much higher weight class than me. I think he was 10 kilos higher than me on the day. To take him out in round 2 to get another British title. My pro debut, and as you can see, he's a lot bigger than me. Round 1 KO, taking out a much bigger guy. And then my favourite knockout to this day. And now, here is a video of me in action.
I mean, that's just...
He's talking to him.
Givens is coming forward with those shots.
Oh!
Swingston was a hell of an amateur prospect. He looked great in his first pro bout.
Yeah.
Completely in control now.
He let go of it.
He's showing that he can hit him some more. This is a oh my!
Oh,
beautiful uppercut hook. Trying to get in. Nice.
Look at the bombs coming from Swanson. He's got his opponent. He shouldn't be trying to copy him here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely knee. Lovely knee. Big hammer fist. Beautiful. Oh my goodness.
Oh, beautiful.
Stafford Swanston fighting out of the blue corner in the red and black.
Oh, what a body kick. Oh, masterful.
Now taking it back to you. This system is not possible if you don't repeat the process. So that small action that you're going to take in the next 3 days, can you repeat it? Because it's only by repeating it that you will build resilience. Choose your thing and build your resilience doing that thing. But that's not the end of my story. It's February 14th, 2023. It's Valentine's Day. And with my one true love, the one I think about every second of the day, my baby one, it's 10:30 in the morning. I'm at the gym. I'm feeling slick. I'm feeling smooth. Everything felt normal. But the thing about normal, it can change in a split second. 2 years prior to this session, I broke my hand in one of my fights. So on this day, I was sparring one-handed. Just picture it. one hand tied behind my back with the other one up, while sparring people with two hands. But here was the problem. This sparring was not light. It was not playful. It was more like a fight. And when fighters fight, there is always a risk. And then it came. The strike that changed everything. A head kick. Now, as you've seen, I've had black eyes before, I've broken my nose a few times, and if you've seen my ears, they're not the best lookers. But this wasn't that kind of injury. This injury was different. This was the kind of injury that changes the trajectory of your entire life. But here's the thing, I didn't even know it at the time. Like, I knew it was the head kick in particular, but it didn't stop me from finishing the session. It was only over the next few hours, days, and even weeks that the real symptoms started to hit. Now, I'll be honest, I have too many symptoms to list, but the ones that affected me the most was a loss of vision, was a loss of balance, constant headaches. But the one that cut through the deepest was my ability to communicate. I lost the ability to pronounce words like I once could. I lost the ability to string together coherent sentences like I once could. From being this outgoing lad who didn't even know what anxiety even was, to now being crippled with it. So I stopped speaking. I stayed quiet. Because I was terrified that I'd mess up. But this leads me back to the 4 R's to building resilience. Just like that 75-year-old man said in his little Speedos and goggles as he plodded into the sauna, you will hit some bumps in the road. The question is, do you stay down or do you recover? I had to recover. But the way I did, it wasn't straightforward. I spent thousands and thousands on specialists, mentors, courses, one-to-ones, did endless exercises. I even started singing lessons. Just picture it. Pro MMA fighter starts opera. And even after 6 lessons, I think I'll stick to the shower. While some of it worked, most of it was complicated, overwhelming, and flat out useless. And I know I'm not the only one with that same frustration on spending money, time, and energy only to feel like you're going nowhere. Now, MMA taught me 2 things. You can make it complicated if you want to make it complicated, or you can make it simple if you want to make it simple. And 2, you learn best when you learn to teach, not just for yourself. I realized something had to change. Instead of learning everything, I started to build my own framework. Something that was simple, something that was repeatable, and something I could actually remember. Because with my brain injury, that was one of my issues. And I don't have a video straight after the injury because I deleted everything out of embarrassment. But what I do have is a video from 2021. I hate watching it. I cringe every single time. But I'm going to show you anyway. This was before my injury anyway. But the reason I'm showing you is to prove one thing. That this, your voice, your speech, your communication is something that can be developed and trained as long as you have the right system to follow.
So I left Phuket top team originally due to the fact that Eric Ures, my coach at the time, was leaving. So he set me up with connections in America, and that's when I went off to there. Now, fast forwarding 2-3 years back to now, I'm in Thailand. I was looking for the best gym that I could train at, really, where I would benefit the most. And Tiger was the one for me at the time.
Big difference, right? As you can tell, I'm very monotone and I say a filler word every 4 seconds. But it's the small things that I did on a daily basis that made all the difference for rising above. But I know I'm not the only one that had those problems. Being able to speak with clarity, being able to articulate my thoughts, being able to speak without freezing or rambling. And so many times, I'd have something to say, but I just wouldn't say it. But it doesn't have to be like that for you. And I'm proof that communication is a skill that can be developed. Now, this skill is the most important skill in the world because it shapes how people see you. It shapes how much influence you have, and it shapes what opportunities you get in your life. It all comes down to that one thing: your ability to communicate. And all you've got to do is turn up your dials. Dials meaning delivery, improv, auditory, language, and storytelling. To be a great communicator, that is all you need. So I have a gift for you. It's free. No bank cards are needed. But here is my gift. I will 2x your speaking confidence and give you the ability to win over any room that you walk into. Each day, for 30 days, I will send you an email, and within this email will be a tool that you can use from my dials formula that I created that you can implement into your speech straight away. This is the QR code behind me. You can take a photo of it, you can scan it. The link is below if that doesn't work, but do what you've got to do to get this link. And to remind you all, it's free. But after you've received these emails for a few days, you will start to realize communication is not about using big words to impress. It's about connecting and nothing less. Because even the simplest things you say will land with power and they won't fade away. There is nothing special about me. The only difference is I follow systems that work. And when you follow them, you'll get the results too. Now, because the slot is 45 minutes, I don't have time for questions. But when you sign up to this link, you will get my email address.
Well, you could stay for morning tea. So.
Yeah, I'm here at the break and at lunch as well, so you can ask questions then. If you send any questions to my email that you'll get through this link, I'll also reply to those questions. But just before we finish, I will wrap up and go into my close. The first R, can anyone shout it out? Resist the urge for comfort, yes. So you're going to resist the urge for comfort, but sooner or later you'll hit a bump in the road, which is why the second R is to recover from setbacks, because an L is not a loss, it is a lesson. But knowing it's a lesson is not enough. The real power comes in what you do next, the actions you take to rise above. And then all you've got to do is repeat the process. But here's the thing. You now have the message, but do you have the motivation? Because if you don't use this information, I'll be honest, it is completely pointless. And think about how your body reacts to stress. It can go in flight or fight mode. So today, you can pick. Because as a fighter, I was predominantly in my fight mode. But when life hits you, you get to decide. Just like you get to decide what you do with this information today. So you can either go in flight mode, freeze up, act on nothing, and let opportunities pass you by. Or you can fight. Act on this information and create more fulfillment in your life than you ever thought was possible. Now, even though I can't fight anymore, there's still a fighter in me every day. And I know there's a fighter in every one of you here today. So let's prove it. Not like that. I'm going to say a series of questions. When I point at you, I want you to shout fight. Is that clear? So when I point, you're going to shout fight. Don't leave me hanging. So when life shows you comfort, what do you do? Fight. When you take an L, what do you do? Fight. When the little things feel pointless, what do you do? Fight. When you want a life, a purpose, of meaning, of fulfillment, what do you do? Fight. That is resilience, ladies and gentlemen. That is the fighter within you. So go out there, resist, recover, rise, and repeat. But whatever you do, don't stop fighting.
To show our appreciation, and thank you for that very inspiring talk. And they can ask you questions during morning tea.
About mate Dennis.
Thank you very much.
Amazingly inspirational, mate. That's terrific. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was very inspiring.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that.
What was your name, sorry?
Wendy.
Wendy. Oh, staff.
And talking about caring in the UK. So, so those, 4 pointers, you expressed it also plainly and simply.
Yeah.
Which was really
Thank you
good.
very much. Thank you.
Thank you. I was very inspired.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to see. He speaks very well. I was looking at pausing and thinking, all the mannerisms you're using, and I thought, good fellow.
He didn't have time, but I wanted to tell you something about what he's going to do next.